There is a pattern I have been tracking since February 20th, and it peaks tonight. 11 days, 7 videos, 1 continuous observation. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction delivered a structure. Mercury retrograde tested the communication of that structure. The Pisces field immersed the structure in water and asked whether you could hold it without confirmation. Mars-Uranus cracked open whatever was blocking the structure from fully landing. I explained the mechanics of what an eclipse does, how it removes borrowed light to reveal the actual surface. I gave you your personal map, the house where the searchlight is pointed. Yesterday I walked you through Eclipse Eve and the resistance pattern that peaks before the breakthrough. And now tonight, March 3rd, the lunar eclipse at 12 degrees Virgo. The pattern peaks here. This is the video I have been building toward, not because the eclipse is the most important transit of the year, but because it is the culmination of a sequence, and sequences are where the real information lives. I want to start with something I am observing right now, today, as the eclipse field reaches maximum intensity. I have been monitoring messages from the group of about 30 people I track during eclipse seasons, and what I am seeing this time is consistent with previous eclipses, but with a specific flavor that connects directly to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. People are reporting a strange combination of exhaustion and clarity. They are tired. Some describe the deepest fatigue they have felt in months. But alongside the fatigue, there is an unusual sharpness of perception, as if the tiredness stripped away the energy needed to maintain pretenses, and what is left is too tired to lie to itself. One person said it this way: "I do not have the energy to pretend anymore, and it is the most honest I have felt in a year." That combination, exhaustion plus honesty, is what I think this particular eclipse is producing. The borrowed light required energy to maintain. The Pisces atmosphere kept the filter running. And the eclipse is not just removing the filter, it is removing the energy source that kept the filter operational. What is left is the truth that requires no energy to sustain. Because truth does not need to be maintained. It just is. Another thing I am noticing that I want to flag because it connects to the Virgo axis specifically. Multiple people are reporting sudden clarity about practical matters. Not grand spiritual revelations, not cosmic downloads. Practical clarity. Someone realized they need to change their morning routine and could suddenly see exactly how it should look. Another person woke up knowing which project at work was draining them and which one was sustaining them, a distinction they had been unable to make for months. A third person told me their relationship to food shifted overnight. Not dramatically, just clearly. They could see which eating patterns were serving their body and which were habits left over from a different phase of life. This is Virgo eclipse material. It does not arrive dressed in cosmic language. It arrives dressed in daily specifics. The routine, the system, the habit, the detail, the practical infrastructure of the life you are actually living, as opposed to the life you imagine you are living. Virgo does not trade in abstractions. It trades in function. And the eclipse is reading your functional reality with Virgo precision right now. Let me walk through the sequence one more time, because seeing it as a whole changes what each individual step means. February 20th, Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees Aries. Something crystallized. The fog cleared. People reported decisions making themselves, structures appearing, ambiguity evaporating. That was Act 1, the planting. A seed of clarity dropped into newly cleared ground. February 25th, Mercury stationed retrograde at 19 degrees Pisces. Inside the active conjunction field, The communication of the clarity got disrupted. You knew what had shifted but could not explain it. Words failed. Messages mislanded. The translation layer scrambled. That was Act 2, the testing. Can you hold what you know when you cannot speak it? February 26th. The Pisces stellium deepened. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, all active in or near Pisces. The medium went liquid. Everything felt underwater, dreamlike, heavy without cause. That was Act 3, the immersion. Can you trust what you know when the environment offers no confirmation? February 27th. Mars squared Uranus while the Sun conjuncted the North Node. Something broke. Something clarified simultaneously. Disruption and direction on the same day. That was Act 4, the clearing. What was blocking the structure got forcibly removed. February 28th. I explained eclipse mechanics, how eclipses remove borrowed light, how the moon turns red because only the longest wavelength of light survives Earth's atmospheric filter. That was Act 5, the education, understanding the tool before it is applied. March 1st. Your personal eclipse map, 12 houses, your specific territory being red. That was Act 6, the targeting. March 2nd, Eclipse Eve. Resistance peaked. Mars entered Pisces. The warrior surrendered. That was Act 7, the vigil. And tonight, Act 8, the reading. The eclipse removes the borrowed light from whatever was planted on February 20th. And what survives the removal is what you build on for the next 6 months. Here is what I want you to understand about tonight. The eclipse is not an event that happens to you. It is a reading that happens through you. A diagnostic that uses your own life as its data set. The specific material that surfaces tonight, the thought that will not leave, the emotion that arrives unbidden, the conversation that erupts, the dream that wakes you at 3 in the morning. That material is the eclipse reading your chart. It is showing you what was hidden under borrowed light. And the most important thing you can do with it is neither react nor suppress. Observe. Write it down. Let the reading complete. Eclipses deliver their full message over approximately 2 weeks. Tonight is the initial flash, the bold headline. The details fill in over the days that follow. What surfaces tonight is real, but it is not yet complete. The completion comes as you sit with it, as you track how it unfolds, as the borrowed light stays removed and you adjust to seeing by natural illumination instead. I want to offer a frame for distinguishing eclipse material from retrograde noise, because both are active right now, and they produce different sensations that are easy to confuse if you are not tracking carefully. Retrograde material feels scrambled. It is familiar content arriving in distorted packaging, old conversations reopening with garbled context, messages that land wrong. Familiar topics rendered temporarily confusing. Retrograde material is about transmission. The signal is real, but the channel is disrupted. You recognize the content even though the delivery is off. The retrograde is not showing you new information. It is showing you old information through a warped lens. And the warping creates frustration, misunderstanding, and the sensation that communication itself has become unreliable. Eclipse material feels revelatory. It is new perception, not scrambled old perception. Something you could not see before is suddenly visible. Not because it appeared, because the light that was hiding it disappeared. Eclipse material has a quality of obviousness that is its most distinctive signature. The response to eclipse material is not what is happening, but how did I not see this before? If what surfaces tonight feels confusing and disorienting, it is probably retrograde noise, and it will clear when Mercury goes direct on March 20th. If what surfaces tonight feels obvious and undeniable, like a veil lifting rather than a signal scrambling, that is eclipse material. Pay closest attention to that. That is the reading. The veil sensation is the one to follow. What to do with what the eclipse shows you. This is the practical part, and it is simpler than most content suggests. Do not make major decisions tonight. The eclipse is a flash of illumination, not a moment of action. You are receiving data. Let the data arrive before you process it. I have watched people make eclipse night decisions that they regretted within a week, not because the insight was wrong, but because they acted on a partial reading. The eclipse delivers its headline tonight. The full article takes 2 weeks to print. Acting on the headline alone is like leaving the cinema after the first scene of a film and writing a review. You saw something real, but you did not see the whole thing. Do not try to fix what the eclipse reveals tonight. The impulse to immediately act on eclipse material is understandable, but premature. What you see tonight will look slightly different by March 5th, and significantly more nuanced by March 10th. The 2-week integration window exists for a reason. The eclipse is a reading, not a verdict. It shows you what is there. Deciding what to do about what is there requires reflection, context, and the kind of clear communication that Mercury retrograde is currently preventing. Let the reading complete before you respond to it. Do write down everything that surfaces. Every thought, emotion, conversation, dream, physical sensation that feels significant. Date it. Timestamp it. Be specific. Not I felt weird, but at 9:45 I felt a sudden heaviness in my chest that lifted after 20 minutes and was replaced by clarity about my work situation. Specificity is your ally. You are building a map of what the eclipse delivered, and that map becomes your navigation tool for the next 6 months. The more detailed the map, the more precise the navigation. And do share what surfaces, not for validation, for documentation. The people around you who are also experiencing this eclipse are receiving different parts of the same signal. Your observation, combined with theirs, creates a more complete picture than either alone. This is why I ask for observations in the comments, not because comments boost the algorithm, though they do, because collective observation during an eclipse produces a more accurate reading than individual observation alone. We are mapping the same event from different positions. Each perspective adds resolution to the collective image. The eclipse window stays open for approximately 2 weeks after the exact event. That is the integration period. The flash happens tonight, but the full download takes time. Think of it like developing a photograph in a dark room. The exposure happens in an instant. The image appears gradually. Over the next 14 days, the eclipse material will continue to develop. Details will emerge that were not visible in the initial flash. Connections will form between what you saw tonight and what you have been processing since February 20th. By mid-March, when Mercury stations direct on the 20th, the complete picture will be available. And that is when action becomes appropriate. Not tonight, not this week, but when the retrograde clears and the eclipse reading has fully developed, and you can see the entire photograph with both the eclipse clarity and the Mercury direct communication restored to full signal. Tomorrow morning, pay attention to the first thought you have when you wake up. I've tracked this across 3 eclipse seasons, and the first waking thought after a lunar eclipse has a remarkably high correlation with the central theme the eclipse activated. Not the anxious thought, not the to-do list. The first quiet thought that appears before the mind fully engages with the day. That thought is the eclipse's summary statement, its headline for your personal reading. Write it down before anything else, before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, before the day starts overriding the eclipse signal with daily noise. That first thought is the closest you will get to a pure eclipse reading, and it is worth protecting. I keep a notebook on the nightstand specifically for this. Eclipse mornings get their own page. Date at the top, first thought written immediately. No editing, no second guessing, just capture. And then later, usually around midday, I revisit what I wrote and compare it to what I documented the night before. The convergence between the eclipse night observations and the first morning thought is where the deepest reading lives. What comes after tonight? The eclipse window carries through mid-March. Mercury retrograde continues until March 20th, which means the communication channel stays disrupted while you are integrating eclipse material. That combination requires patience. You will know things clearly that you cannot yet articulate clearly. Hold that tension. Do not force premature expression. The Mercury cazimi on March 7th offers a brief 24-hour window of clarity within the retrograde. That is the moment to check in with the eclipse material and see if the early reading still holds. The cazimi acts like a brief lens correction inside the fog. For 24 hours, the signal clears, and you can verify whether what the eclipse showed you on March 3rd still looks the same from the vantage point of March 7th. If it does, the reading is solid. If it has shifted, the shift itself is informative. I will be here for all of it. Tomorrow, the first post-eclipse signal and the 3 things to watch for as the reading develops. Thursday, the Mercury cazimi preview, and the week after that, the full unfolding as the eclipse photograph develops in the dark room of your daily life. For now, tonight, one instruction. Watch what happens when the borrowed light goes out. Not with fear, not with expectations, not with a ritual or a crystal or an intention you wrote on paper. Just watch. With the same attention you would give to a sunset or a thunderstorm or any natural event that is larger than you and does not require your permission to proceed. The eclipse will do what it does. Your job is to be a faithful witness to what it reveals. That requires nothing except presence, nothing except willingness to see without flinching. Nothing except the kind of quiet attention that this channel has been practicing together for 11 days. We trained for this. Every video was preparation for tonight. Every observation was practice for the observation that matters most. And now, the moment is here. The light is changing. The moon is entering the shadow. And what remains when the borrowed light goes out is what was always actually there. That is the only thing worth building on. Watch carefully. The reading has begun, and whatever it shows you tonight is yours to keep. Not borrowed, not reflected, not maintained by energy you no longer have. Yours. That is what eclipses give you. Your own light. Stripped of everything that was never yours to begin with.